Welcome back to Fully Fashioned. I'm ArianaJoy Cobbler.
And I'm Jake Sharons.
So over the last month, there's been a lot of fashion attire going around. There's been a lot of events, a lot of different premieres going on that we really want to showcase in this episode. The primary theme that's going to be reoccurring throughout this episode is going to be royalty, and we're going to be showcasing queens, kings, princesses, things that kind of may seem a little bit childish at first, but when you actually get into it, there's a lot more to it when it comes to what they're wearing and how they're kind of expressing themselves through clothing.
Yeah, we'll be breaking everything down up on the big screen today. New set for the first official episode. Last time was kind of the pilot episode where we were kind of breaking down some of the stuff from the Met Gala. So today is kind of a run-of-the-mill episode, starting to get into the flow of things. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, so again, this is a new setup, so please let us know what you guys think about this setup, and if you guys think that we should change things up. We're, again, open to new ideas and new possibilities, and we're always willing to change things up. So yeah, as we continue in, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what it takes to be in royalty nowadays. And a good segue into this is something that just happened over the last month, and that was the King of Britain's coronation. That is something that doesn't normally happen very often. So this here is Kate Middleton, who is the wife of King Philip, Prince Philip, I'm sorry. So it's really cool to see a bunch of not only celebrities but royalty go to events like these, because again, it doesn't very happen often. Again, this just happened because sadly the Queen of England died about a year ago, and so they had the coronation for the new king. This is Kate Middleton, like I said. She is really showing off her patronism. And that's usually because these are those type of events where you're basically showing to the world how much you care about the country. And since she is a princess, she essentially is a big part of the community there. Also, excuse me, I don't think she's a princess. I think she's either a duke or a duchess. I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, I just wanted to dive into some of the things that she's wearing. Not only is she wearing traditional stuff, but as you see, she is wearing those drop earrings with the pearls. And I find that it's very interesting that she's wearing those because they actually used to be Princess Diana's, who is the late wife of the current king now, which is really interesting to me because of a whole backstory with her. So just showing up and kind of paying homage to the late Princess Diana is something that is very cool. And throughout a bunch of the different people that attended, you'll see a lot of parallels kind of honoring that Princess Diana. So yeah, she mostly is just wearing like normal stuff. You'll see that she has a lot of jewelry and a lot of like symbolism that resonates within the United Kingdom. So she's wearing roses and daffodils as well as shamrock, which are all motifs tying back to the country and the nation itself. So again, it's really cool to see all the stuff that they're wearing. Okay, so this is King Philippe and Queen Letizia of Spain, and they are renowned as one of the best dressed royals in the world. She's suiting in a pink getup, which is really cool, by Carolyn Harina, which I think is very nice. As you can see, as we go through, royalty have standards on what they can and cannot wear to events like these, and just events in general. You're not going to find a royal person wearing cutoff shorts and a t-shirt anymore, especially when they're going through these types of coronations. And mostly that's because they have to maintain a presence for themselves and an image for themselves, because not only are they representing themselves, but they're representing an entire country. So keeping that stuff in mind, it is very important. So not only did royal people attend this coronation, but Katy Perry actually also attended, and that was because she was the entertainment for that evening. So she was able to come, and she actually wore Vivienne Westwood, which is on her necklace, and it's a pretty iconic like design, and it's cool that she wore that because the designer for that is British, again paying homage to the country that she's visiting, to the people that she's performing for. And then on top of that, the creator actually died in 2022, so kind of doing a little bit of both to honor them. And then lastly, that necklace that I just talked about may be a little bit of comparison to Camilla, which is the current queen now, because the king decided to remarry. And that necklace may have been a little bit of a nod because Camilla does a lot of 3-strand pearls herself.
So I'm kind of seeing some similarities between Katy Perry and people from Spain. Kind of some. This is more pink, I would say. Katy Perry. It might just be this angle or the camera. This looks a little bit more of like a purple theme throughout. So which one did you like better? They both got like a hat off to the side. Which one do you think was a little bit better?
Honestly, it was kind of, both of them were giving like when you go to the races, like go see horses and stuff. I don't know. I feel like Katy Perry's was a lot more modern for right reasons, because she is a pop star. She is not necessarily there for like royalty reasons. So I think that the Queen of Spain has this for me, just because she has already that presence. She was already expected to be wearing very nice stuff. Her husband, King Philippe, actually had very good attire as well, and I think they paired well with each other as well.
Cool.
Lastly is my personal favorite. So having a background in Japanese culture, it is very, very unique to have the prince and the princess of Japan come to an event like this. They don't normally go to anything this grand, so having them go is really cool. This is Prince Akishino and Princess Kiko from Japan, and they're both wearing traditional silk kimono and obi belts, which are really cool because they get to kind of show off their own personalities as well as their culture by going to such big events like this that are being shown on a global scale, that people are all tuning into to watch this, and they can kind of show their own personal style as well as their culture. They also wear a lot of traditional stuff, as well as their color schemes that they wear are very traditional. So again, it's sort of the same idea of like when royalty comes and visits or goes to an event like this, they're showing off not only themselves but their culture and their country. So being very traditional is that way of kind of telling their homeland that they are there to represent themselves and their country. So again, it's really cool.
And it seems like more in Western fashion, you see more of like the two-legged pant style, whereas sometimes over maybe in the East you see kind of, I don't want to say like a kilt, but it's got, it's not two pant legs. It's they'll kind of branch out and try some other things as well.
Yes, I would say that is one thing that I really have noticed is in those Eastern like regions, they're going to be more willing to mix different textures and mix different patterns, just because that's what they've always done in their lifestyle. In Japanese culture, the more pattern that you have, even if it doesn't technically match, the wealthier you are, the more put together you are, which I think is very, it kind of contradicts what the Western kind of culture is that everything needs to look like it's put in a way that matches, and there shouldn't be too many chaotic patterns and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see people like the prince and the princess come to things like this and show off what they think is supposed to be fashionable, even though it might not be fashionable to Westerners or people from America or people from Britain. So yeah.
How do we feel about these long black tube socks type things out here?
I think it's pretty cool. Again, it's very, very traditional for men to have kimonos like this. I'm surprised. The one thing, though, is that isn't traditional is that they're wearing footwear. In Japan, usually they wear the bamboo slippers. But I would understand why they didn't do that, because the terrain was probably different in Britain. And then on top of that, it might not have been acceptable for them to go open-toed in a setting like this, even though it might have been a traditional thing for the Japanese culture. So again, they were there as guests. They probably had to ask permission to be able to even dress the way that they dressed. So I really commend a culture to just show up and be themselves.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like how we got to see each different group bring their own aspect to it. They're not all just wearing like the same black and white suit and tie. They're not all wearing the same, colored dress.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I would say that's one thing about the coronation is it's not a funeral, it's a celebration of the country itself, which is why there are so many bright colors and just people celebrating the king becoming a king. So yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The next thing we're going to talk about is along the same lines of the crown. This last, I don't know, like year-ish or so, I personally have been captivated by the Bridgerton series. Along with the rest of the world, I feel like everyone and their mom has been addicted to this story, which I find very interesting. So this next character that we're going to be talking about is Queen Charlotte, or Miss India Armafieo, and she basically won the crown for me. She looks absolutely gorgeous. If you guys don't know who this is the younger version in the spin-off Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, which is new to Netflix. I would say about maybe 2-ish months now. I recently just started watching it, and it's very, very good, so I highly recommend. This photo is actually from the premiere in London, and she's wearing Sabrina Belinko, and she's styled by Holly White and Oyen Higgins. And it really allows her to look sophisticated yet elegant, and on top of it, being like a young and like successful actress, I feel like it's very hard to portray young actresses in a sophisticated way, and somehow they did it here, which is really cool.
Yeah, I really like kind of this trailing white bottom part. I feel like if they left that off, it would have looked pretty casual, something you could wear to any sort of formal event. But I feel like by adding this part to her left side that really kind of steals the whole scene and displays her as someone that is kind of elevated in the scene and a reason why the paparazzi are all taking photos of them.
Yeah, so this is, again, the queen herself, or Miss India. This photo is actually from Vogue Netherlands, which showcased them in a bunch of different ways on their magazine. They actually got covered, and it was really cool to see them because I feel like this was really the first time that Miss India herself and her co-star were able to be photographed in such a risque way. I feel like some of the outfits are like really out there, but for the most part, I really enjoyed everything that they were able to photo shoot, and they photo shoot really well, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, this one in the middle, I think it's pretty interesting. They go for like the jacket without any sort of shirt underneath it. That's something I feel like you don't see every day. So that's a very unique thing, as well as like the dress on her. I don't know if you mentioned that as well. That's a very, bold choice with that big of a bottom part kind of flowing out. I like the color as well, so pretty
Yes.
interesting photo shoot here.
Yeah, her co-star, again, they do a lot to make him feel very feminine. In this one with India in the black pantsuit, he's actually wearing silicone, I think it looks like. But it's really cool to see him have a lot of different variety within all of these photos. Yes, so as I said earlier, we have a bunch of premieres that have happened within the last month and a month and a half. And so we really want to dive into everything that we have seen. So again, going off of Bridgerton and Queen Charlotte, I kind of wanted to showcase their actual show. One thing that we have been seeing throughout is this sense of like color palette within the show. It's not something that hasn't been done before, but the way that it's done in this show or shows is done very well. There's been other shows that have strictly done color palette for certain characters. I know Riverdale did that for all their characters at one point. And there's been movies that they do it a lot. But in this case, they have a lot of people using certain color schemes to essentially show their character's portrayal through their emotions and things like that, which is why you'll see people wearing bright pink and bright yellow when they're being flamboyant. Or, for example, the Bridgerton family themselves, they're always in muted pink and muted blues and very neutral pastel colors. And that's really just because they're supposed to be neutral and very like calming. So it's interesting to see that kind of setup and why that kind of color scheme is so important throughout the show. And that is something that I picked up on as soon as I started watching. By like episode 2, that is one thing that is very prominent within all of these shows.
Yeah, I'm interested to know, how early in the show development process for Queen Charlotte and also Bridgerton itself, what the showrunners decided would be the colors for each family, because the way you describe it, it seems like it's super well thought out and they want to make sure it's matching up perfectly with the personas of all the different characters. So I doubt this was something they just put together on set that day and just said, hey, Bridgerton family, you're going to have this muted pink theme. I'm assuming they're probably doing that months in advance so that they can get all the different set design correct, all of the different wardrobe correct. So that probably was a long, drawn-out process for them.
Yeah, I feel like that's one thing that people kind of sleep on is the set designers and set costume designers. Like, there would be a completely different movie if the costume designers didn't do the job that they did, which I think is very interesting and shows through shows and movies like this where it's very, very prominent and very important for the character development.
And it's not even just the main characters, even in those massive ball scenes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the entire show, but even when you have like extras just in the background, every single person is just completely decked out in something that makes them look worthy of being in the shot, obviously, but it doesn't overshadow the main characters who are in the scene, but it also fills the entire room and makes it actually kind of come alive in the time period, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Next up is our personal favorite, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that just recently came out about 3 weeks ago. This is going to be one of the harder ones to talk about just because we have already watched it. If you haven't watched Guardians of the Galaxy already, you need to. It is probably one of the best movies that is going to happen this summer. So yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into it. First off, we have Vin Diesel right here, decked out in his Groot drip. Obviously, if you don't know, Vin Diesel voices Groot for all of the movies, all of the different Avengers movies they're in. And one of the coolest details in this suit, you can see a little bit of baby Groot hopping out of his suit pocket on the inside. And yeah, what do you think about this one? This is an interesting look here.
I mean, if he was trying, it's a premiere. He went as his character. I feel like it's very suited. And for someone who kind of has such an iconic line, he kind of has to go as Baby Groot. I feel like he can't not do some kind of character because honestly, people are kind of just going to forget about him at the premiere if he doesn't show up like this, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really cool. You see kind of like the sprouts coming out of the shoulder. He almost looks plant-like, which I think just perfectly fits into the character that he portrays as the voice actor for Groot during all of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Next up, one of my personal favorites from the red carpet was not James Gunn in this crazy green getup. It was actually his son, Sean Gunn, who came in this absolutely dope, just silver, shiny, patterned suit with the white turtleneck underneath. I thought this was an incredible look for Sean Gunn. What do you think?
Yeah, I love this look. I feel like it gives kind of like, what is his name? Jack Frost. That's what it gives. I also feel like it does a lot for the character itself. I feel like if you've watched the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you know what happens when they try to go into space without a helmet on and they all get these like white crystally things all over their face because they can't survive without air. And the design that's on his suit is what it looks like when they get a bunch of those ice crystals all over their faces, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I just really think I'm just a personal huge fan of the turtleneck or kind of the alternate shirt underneath the suit jacket. I feel like it's so common and easy to just go with the button down and a tie underneath the suit jacket. But I feel like when you can branch out and do something like Sean Gunn did here where you kind of add some personality and some of yourself into the outfit, I feel like it's always cool.
And I feel like it really, like, it doesn't look like just a turtleneck and a suit. It makes it look elevated, which is something that doesn't usually happen when you put a turtleneck under a suit. Usually that's usually when you want to go to like a sports game and you just want to wear a sports coat. But going to a premiere with that makes it look really cool.
Yeah.
As for James Gunn, he really just looks like the Grinch for me right now.
Grinch?
Even with the hair, like his hair makes him look like the Grinch for me. I don't know.
A little bit of Shrek mixed with Grinch, maybe. I don't know what the color choice was there. Maybe there is some significance to it. I'm not entirely sure, but I definitely think, at least in this picture, when he's matching up with his son, Sean Gunn really blew him out of the water, in my opinion. But next up, we have Will Poulter, who made his MCU debut as Adam Warlock in Guardians Volume 3, and this suit was really cool, in my opinion. Kind of subtle. First look at it, you may not, take a second glance, but if you really examine the pattern on the suit, the fit, the taper on the pants, and also he has a pretty nice chain that goes kind of shorter around the collar of the button-down shirt. But overall, I thought this was one of the best looks of the night.
Yeah, I love this look. At first, I thought he was wearing off-white, which I'm not sure what he is wearing. I don't know what designer this is, but it looks really well suited to him. I also love that he's wearing a platform boot and not just like a regular suit shoe. But again, I just love the design, and having the having the white shirt peeking out with the sleeves is a really nice touch. One thing I do think, though, is, I don't know, maybe it just looks like a teeny bit too tight on him. I don't know what that's about. Maybe it would look better if it wasn't a double-breasted suit. But overall, I love it, and I do love the addition of the chain. It kind of gives it a little bit of sparkle and pizzazz.
It could just be because he got absolutely yoked for this movie, and that's why it was looking so tight on him. Maybe they ordered that one a little bit earlier. This was one of the more interesting looks from the whole red carpet premiere of Guardians 3. Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder made a look out on here on the red carpet. Kind of rocking more of a street style look. He's got the shades. He's got the Louis V shorts on as well. The kind of vintage Janet Jackson shirt underneath this little, I don't know if you can even call it a tiny zip-up jacket because he's like 6'5", so I'm sure if
I
I
don't
if I put
know.
that jacket on, it would probably look like a regular jacket for me.
He seems very confused at what weather this is supposed
Hmm.
to be. Like, he's wearing shorts, but then he has the zip up, but then he also has the ski glasses on. Like, I don't really know what weather attire was supposed to be. His shoes look like those 2000s wedges that every single girl wore in like middle school. They're so funny. I do love the laces that he has, though. The chunky lace trend is really, really popular right now, and I really think that it works. One thing I do think is that he was very memorable. Everyone's going to remember the guy who wore Louis Vuitton jorts. So,
Yeah, if you want to take another closer look at his experience on the red carpet, he does have a vlog of the whole experience on his personal YouTube channel, so you can go ahead and check that out. He also has a couple of Jesus pieces on as well on his chain, and also on his right ear with the earrings too. So I think that kind of pulls together the look a little bit for him. But overall, I think this is a pretty decent look for what I would assume was a pretty last-minute experience for him. I doubt they gave him too much in advance of him showing up. But next up, we have kind of an early event for the upcoming Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movie that's coming out this week, actually. I'm very excited for this one. And recently, the leads of this movie, you see obviously over here, you see Shamik Moore on the left, you have Hailee Steinfeld in the middle, and then Jake Johnson, who voices Peter B. Parker, on the right. Any first initial reactions to all three of these looks here?
I really, really like the one on the left. He's wearing this kind of mesh, sparkly getup, and it works really well. I think that all three of them kind of have a weird, cohesive, outfits, I guess. I don't know, they all three have different outfits, don't get me wrong, but for some reason they all work. I think it's the color scheme, they all tie well together. This is definitely like a fall color scheme, which is weird because the actual movie is coming out in summertime. I would have liked a lot more color. One thing though is that Hailee Steinfeld doesn't usually do color, and when she does, it's for very, very special occasions. So I guess this wasn't a very special occasion, but it does look like that whoever told them to come to this event told them it was not a formal event and told them to come in some cool street style looks. I do love Mr. Johnson's leather jacket, though. It's very cool. That is something that I would literally have in my closet right now if I could.
Yeah, he came in the look that he could have worn this to go grocery shopping, go out for a chill night, and I guess he can wear this to an Across the Spider-Verse event. But speaking of Hailee Steinfeld, there was some big news in the world of paparazzi recently as she was seen out with Bills quarterback Josh Allen together, which was really popping on Twitter, especially in Bills Twitter, which I am a big fan of because obviously I am part of the Bills Mafia. So what were your reactions to seeing all of this?
I don't know. At first, I was really shocked. I was like, there's no way. I remember we were in my room at the time, and I was like, what is going on? Like, my phone was blowing up. I had no idea. I did a quick Google search. It was Hailee Steinfeld plus Josh, not even his last name. And the first 6 searches was all of these photos of him and her hopping out of a car. And I was like, wow, there is no way. And then 2 days later, what happened?
Yeah, we saw all this breaking news about, Josh and his old girlfriend not, following each other on Instagram anymore, and all this stuff about them hanging out together, which was insane.
Yeah, it was really crazy. I feel like we did some deep diving ourselves, and we fact checked and made sure that they weren't following each other on Instagram. And it was just a weird moment. And then a few hours later after we had done that, we find out that Hailee Steinfeld and Josh Allen went to a sushi restaurant together, which, I mean, sushi is pretty intimate. You don't just go to sushi with someone unless it's someone you can have a laugh with. So I think that's kind of funny.
Well, it looks like they had a great time together, so That's pretty interesting news. But to finish up on all the Spider-Verse stuff, we have the recently released, as of May 20, Marvel x Air Jordan 1 Retro High OG Next Chapter kicks here. This is the second collab for Marvel and, Spider-Verse series and the Air Jordan 1s, obviously synonymous with Miles Morales in the movies. And compared to the first iteration, which had kind of those, it looked pretty much like the Chicago colorway with a couple of Spider-Verse designs on there. I think they went a lot harder on these ones, and I think it came out a lot better as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. We saw the first rendition of these, and honestly, me and Jake were not fucking with them. We did not like it. They seemed really tacky and like a little too on the nose with the whole like comic theme. But I do love the way that these ones are able to kind of hint at that Spider-Verse theme while still doing like Nike. Personally, I don't really like the Chicago colorways in general.
Really? That's a hot take.
Which is, I know, a hot take. I also just don't really like the color red, which I feel like is a big reason why I don't like these shoes. But I do love that they do the two-toned thing that they do in the movie a lot, where it like kind of glitches back and forth. And it looks like it's meant to do that in the shoe. That was one thing that I did not like in the first one, that it just looked like it wasn't meant to be like that. Whereas this one, it looks clean, it looks nice. So yeah.
I think one of my favorite changes from the first one to this different iteration was the first one had like these icy bottoms on the shoe instead of just the classic red sole, which I personally like better. So I'm definitely a big fan that they returned to just a regular sole for this Jordan 1. And like you said, it's got kind of the color dots that a lot of like the old comics would use to put the color together on the page. And I think they really did a great job in incorporating that into the shoe in a way that makes sense and not just a bunch of random, what essentially would look like polka dots on a shoe. So I'm a really big fan of these. Not sure if I'm gonna get them. I saw on GOAT in my size they were selling for like over $300. So whoever was able to pick these up for retail, I think that was a big W for you. But let's move on here.
Yeah, so next up is our On the Feed, which, if you guys remember, back in our pilot, we kind of explained it a little bit. Essentially, it's some of the things that we picked up on in the last few weeks that we think is worthy to be on the podcast, even though we were just scrolling and kind of passed by it. Mm-hmm. So the first one up is the red carpet for Bulgari. A lot of people, if you guys remember that commercial that came out with Anne Hathaway and Zendaya, it kind of broke the internet, honestly. The fact that those two girls were in a commercial together representing a jewelry brand was pretty cool. But for this red carpet, they brought in a bunch of different celebrity brand ambassadors. From this picture on the left, we have Lisa from Blackpink. So for any Blinks out there, she is getting up there in the world. Being able to be a brand ambassador for a luxury brand like this is a big deal. So I commend her for that. And then we have Priyanka Chopra Jonas, who is very, very stunning. And for her age, to be able to do things like this and be amongst very young celebrities is pretty cool. And then we have Anne Hathaway and Zendaya. So they have a lot of unique looks. I also feel like the brand in general chose very, very good brand ambassadors that showed both their character as a brand as well as their prestige behind the brand, just by the people that they chose, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm. And this is the second time we've seen Anne Hathaway on the show. She did really well in Met Madness in the debut of Foley Fashion, so it's kind of cool to see her popping up again in this cool kind of gold dress for Bulgari.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Next up, we have a photo shoot with Slam for NBA Rookie of the Year Paolo Banchero. And this was an interesting photo shoot, to say the least. You can see him wearing his Magic jersey. He's got the ginormous chain with his name or his initial on there. He's got the basketballs in front, the massive ski goggles, which was something that people were reacting to. And then, of course, the thing that your eyes draw to the most, these ginormously wide-legged denim jeans, which I'm not sure what the style is here, but I think he pulled it off somehow.
Yeah, Paolo and I are actually kind of matching today, which I didn't even notice until just now. That is something that I do repeatedly, is this wide leg flared jean thing. I feel like this is very common in Eastern Asian cultures to have very baggy flared jeans like this. Yes, here in the Western world, I feel like baggy jeans, street style jeans that are just baggy in general is big, but his are tapered, which I think is really, really cool because that's something that not a lot of people do here in the Western world. But I love it. It works pretty well. I think for a sports persona to be able to come onto a magazine and still be able to kind of awe us and like make us talk about the stuff that he's wearing is, if anything, that is a green, like that's a gold medal for me, because that's not something that you usually see from sports personas and sports players in general, unless it's like someone who already has a platform. So it's cool that Slam is being able to allow sports athletes to have a voice through their clothes by allowing them to wear this type of stuff for their cover. And it's just good marketing. We wouldn't be talking about their magazine unless this guy was wearing a dope outfit. So, yeah.
And one of the craziest things about this entire photo shoot, Paolo Banchero is like 6'10", 6'11", and with this photo shoot, I think with these super wide leg jeans, it makes him look so much smaller. I feel like if he was wearing more form-fitting clothes, he would obviously look ginormous like he is in real life, but somehow they make him look, I don't know if it was on purpose, but they make him look like a shorter stature. I'm not sure if that was the goal or not, or if that's just my view of it. The watch on his left arm is pretty nice. I don't know, I can't really tell what that is, but it looks pretty well put together. Probably some diamonds on there, I would guess. So probably to match the chain around his neck. So this was, all in all, a very impressive display of fashion. I will be very much looking forward to see in the future. Obviously, Paulo, as a rookie, is just now kind of making his mark at the pro level. Maybe a year or two down the line, we'll start seeing him turn up at some of these other fashion events, like we've seen guys like Russell Westbrook and others in the pro sports field kind of make their mark in the fashion world as well.
Well, that is all we have for you guys today. Fully Fashioned is really for you guys. I want to let you guys know that. So again, please make sure that you are letting us know anything that you want us to showcase, either if that's like visual stuff or content in general. Just make sure to leave a comment, let us know, so that we can apply that to this media for you guys.
Yeah, and we've got a ton more events coming up this summer, a lot more movie premieres even just this month. We've got the NBA draft coming up as well. We'll be reacting to all of those different outfits from draft night, so I'm really excited to keep this one going.
Yeah, same. Again, we really want to thank you guys for just tuning in. For the time being, we will see you guys back here probably in a week or two.
Yep. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.